For, in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future. And we are all mortal.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
What do you think about that
quote? I'm laughing because there's about 7 mistakes in that, but I can't talk. That's brilliant.
That's why I'm the editor.
John F. Kennedy. What a guy.
He's kind of the most important president when it comes to space.
People can talk the talk, but he really walked the walk, didn't he?
He walked the walk.
Yes.
JF Kennedy, the space person's president.
Absolutely.
I'm going to celebrate a birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So Friday, the 8th of June, Giovanni Domenico Cassini. It's his birthday.
God.
It's his birthday, 1625, 8th of June.
Well, Matt, we have to find out a bit about his life,
Well,
please.
he was obviously a mathematician, astronomer, and engineer. Actually, he was also an astrologer. I know that's pretty hideous, isn't it? But he kind of started off, doing astrology. It was a big gig back in the day, but he eventually kind of realised that was a bit ridiculous. So sort of
nonsense,
nonsensy. His main thing is he discovered 4 satellites of Saturn.
Yes.
So Iapetus, Rhea, Tethys, and Dion.
Which is your favourite, Matt?
Out of all those, I think Iapetus, because that's 1671. Which is exactly 300 years before my birthday.
I quite like Rhea because it reminds me of the road to hell.
Did you know that Chris Rea once joined Dire Straits?
Oh, God.
And they were known as Diarrhea. Anyway, but...
we started early today, haven't we?
Yeah. So Cassini, obviously, for astronomers, they know the Cassini division, which is the gap in the rings that you can see from Earth as long as you've got a good enough telescope. So, the Cassini division in the rings of Saturn. He discovered that in 1675.
Mind-blowing. That is just crazy, isn't it?
And then 10 years earlier, he discovered the Great Red Spot on Jupiter as well, the GRS.
I just can't believe how long ago it was. Matt, do you know the world's oldest restaurant is in Madrid? I can't remember the name. I will get the name. But that was, I believe, 1725. That it opened its doors. And this is 1675 you're talking about.
Well, would you think how much we've learned since then about the universe? Like learning about the solar system is like a kind of fairly recent endeavour, I think.
Oh, for sure. I just think of the equipment that they had back then, though. That's what blows my mind.
Yeah, and bear in mind, Cassini, he was a contemporary of Newton. So he kind of rejected Newton's theory of gravity, first of all, because for some reason, he made some kind of measurement that made the Earth's poles elongated. And it was only when the French went out and found out that it wasn't that he kind of went, okay, fair enough, Newton, you win.
Conceded.
One of the greatest ones that I absolutely love, because I love the story of longitude, the Harrison clocks and all that. But Cassini was the first person to make a successful measurement of longitude using the Galileo method of watching the eclipses of the Galilean satellites.
Really? I didn't know that.
So sailors would have had telescopes to actually look at the satellites of Jupiter and use that as the clock.
It's an elaborate clock, that, isn't it? Imagine that, Matt, if one of your family asked you the time and you went, hang on, just nip out. Get on the telescope. Yeah.
I think even more amazing they could work out the longitude using that. But it took a lot of calculations, and often it took so long that you'd crashed on some rocks before you were actually able to do the calculations.
God, that's nuts.
Do you know Brian May is an expert in the zodiacal light, which is a faint glow that extends away from the sun in the ecliptic plane of the sky. Cassini was the first person that correctly explained the phenomena back in 1683.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so happy birthday, Cassini.
Happy birthday.
Now I want to talk about another space dude as well, who died on the 7th of June. So as this podcast goes out, it was yesterday that he died in 1826.
Okay.
And this is another example of how far we've come in astronomy. So he made telescopes, and he invented the spectroscope, which is basically the way that you can split the sunlight or light into its component parts. So he thought, I bet if when you use these spectroscopes on, say, a sodium lamp, you just get one bright band where the sodium is glowing. So he thought, I wonder if you do the same to the sun. And when he did it to the sun, he found these dark, instead of like a bright line, he found all these dark lines. And so, there are lots of dark lines, or absorption lines as they're called. And they became Fraunhofer lines. Joseph Ritter von Fraunhofer.
That is quite the name.
Fraunhofer.
Wow.
Fraunhofer was a Bavarian physicist. And so imagine that. So he found these absorption lines. Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough, because he died from consumption, to work out what these absorption lines were. But it's how we tell what stars and the sun are made of. Those lines are, of course, give you clues as to the composition of those stars. It's incredible.
That is absolutely another dude.
When you look at a rainbow, it's got these little transmission lines in it, but you just can't see it because our eyes aren't good enough. But they're there. They're there. Amazing.
So, Matt, when you say he died of consumption, can you elaborate on that word?
Do you know what? I can't elaborate on consumption. It's like everyone in the Victorian era died of consumption, but I don't really know what it is.
Does that mean they ate too much?
No, consumption, I suppose, it must be some form of really easy curable disease these days. What is consumption?
Well, listeners, if you know what consumption is in that context, please tweet us using the hashtag #AteTooMuch.
It's not really an astronomy word, is it?
No.
Talking of astronomy words, it's space word of the week.
Space word of the week.
Do you know what? I wonder how long we can keep this going, but there's got to be hundreds of space words.
Here we go. What's the first one then? I'm excited.
Egress.
That's EGRESS.
Do you know what an egress is?
Well, I do, but I don't want to show off.
Well, the good thing about egress, and this is the reason why I chose it as the first space word, is because it kind of has two definitions in the world of space that are similar and obviously come from the same Latin. So Latin, ex, meaning to go out, and gradi, meaning to step. So it means to step out. For example, before launching on a spacecraft, an astronaut might practice emergency egress in case they have to escape quickly, getting out of the spacecraft. So egress means to get out. So often they use it with things like astronauts because it just sounds cool. Instead of saying the astronaut came out of the hatch.
He egressed from the hatch. It's rather poetic.
Yeah, it's much better, isn't it? But in astronomy, if you were watching the transit of Venus, for example, like we did a few years ago,
as I do,
as it's about to exit the disk of the star it's transiting in front of, the sun in this case, with its Venus, as it's about to leave, that's known as the egress of the planet leaving the disk. So it means to step out.
Well, I really like that one. And hey, Matt, it's a really good time of year to look up and see Venus.
Yes,
if you're in our part of the world, isn't it lovely?
It's
and
beautiful.
Jupiter.
It's beautiful. They're both very, very bright at the moment. However, I don't think we'll see a transit of Venus again in our lifetime, which is a bit depressing.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, what's happening in the news, Jamie? I'll make this pretty musk heavy at the beginning. And I don't mean in a deodorant kind of way.
Get your shots of whatever your poison is ready, because there'll be a lot of drinking going on. I mean, what do you think about this, Matt? His tweets.
He's gone absolutely mental. That's what's happened.
I think he's in love and he's just being silly.
Is that it?
He's in love with Grimes, isn't it?
Is that what it is? Is he in love?
I think so.
Oh, he's lost the plot because he's in love. I just thought it was because...
That's my theory.
My theory is that he's surrounded himself with yes men and there's no one left to tell him, Elon, what the heck anymore.
Oh, do you think so? Like the Emperor's New Clothes?
Yeah, I genuinely hope that he snaps out of it, because it really does have the hallmarks of someone just believing their own hype. I mean, he's only a human being after all. I know we love him, and God does he get stuff done, but he is only a human being. Like, leave it. I mean, this one where he went, You have nano in your bio. That is 100% synonymous with BS. I mean, what the hell?
Well, I know, but it is quite funny.
It is quite funny.
I mean,
but
he shouldn't really be rising. Surely he's got more important things to do. But I think it makes him a nice, interesting character, doesn't it? The fact that he just gets involved in these
do you know what?
spats.
If he had just left it at that, but he kind of keeps doubling down on his position and just sort of battering down the hatches until eventually he did some other weird one about it's all about the pico scale and the femto scale, and it's just like what? It's just like okay, and then there's that ridiculous spat he had with the media as well, like whinging about the media and then saying he was going to start Pravda. It's just like Elon Musk is such a great person to have in control of the press. Not.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a funny one.
So do you think Musk is losing it?
It's okay. I don't think so.
He's in love.
That's what I think, and I think he has a few glasses of red.
Yeah.
And then he gets on Twitter for a laugh.
I think Jeff Bezos is going to be laughing his head off in his Baron's lair. What?
You reckon? Stroking a white cat?
No, that's it.
That's not a euphemism. An actual cat.
An actual cat. But Elon Musk did tweet a pretty cool tweet.
Well, Tintin A and Tintin B, I'm hoping you're going to mention.
I am. I'm mentioning Tintin A and Tintin B, which we did talk about because remember they launched back on February the 22nd with Spain's Paz satellite, and they're to test this kind of mega constellation. That was it. You got excited about the word mega constellation.
I did.
Yeah. Starlink. Not to be confused with Star-Lord, of course.
No, please don't.
Starlink satellites. So, yeah, he's saying that they're being tested and they've got a latency of 25 milliseconds. So that's good enough to play video games. So you see, one of the problems with these kind of space constellations to do internet access is the delay, because obviously they're so high up, normally in geostationary orbit, that it's like a sort of almost 1 second, 800 milliseconds of latency to get up to these things. So it makes game playing pretty stupid and impractical. The idea is to get these much, 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 much lower, so that Starlink satellites, instead of being up in geostationary orbit, they're down at only about 746 miles or 1,200 kilometers, which means you can reduce that latency right down. But it's still nowhere near the latency of 5 milliseconds that you get with like really high quality broadband.
Yeah, I mean, keep up, yeah.
Keep up, Musk.
Keep up, Grandad.
But it could be good. I mean, it'll never, presumably, just purely on the maths, it can never get that good. So, but it's good enough for a lot of things. You don't particularly need great latency for watching movies because it just buffers up.
It's true enough.
The most ridiculous story I saw this week is, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, where they said SpaceX has indicated it won't launch a pair of space tourists to loop around the moon this year. It's just like, well, we know, don't we?
Dun, dun, dun.
Don't we know? Because he's already said he's not human rating the Falcon Heavy, so we already know that. There's a site.
Yeah, what a surprise.
But then it did go to say that Mr. Gleason, James Gleason, who is a spokesman for SpaceX, said they're still planning to fly private individuals around the moon, and there's growing interest from many customers. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, of course there's lots of interest. I don't think anyone would sort of turn down a trip round the moon, would they?
No, it's just
ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. But the article is quite interesting because it does go on to sort of explain how actually there's going to be a massive drop in satellite kind of orders next year, like as in they're going to have a bumper year this year, but next year it's going to drop by about 40% in 2019, and that's really bad compared to their kind of documents that they release to their investors. So there you go, which is what we were talking about when I went to that UK satellite launch, is that whole idea of just because you build a space launch system doesn't mean that the market's actually going to exist.
If you build it, it might not come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, let's get into ace news. Some really, really genius news to follow up from the fact that Mars Curiosity's drill was working.
Oh, yes.
So the lab is working as well. So they've developed a new technique to get the samples off the drill over into the lab.
Whoa.
On Mars, we have to try and estimate visually whether this is working just by looking at images of how much powder falls out. said John Michael Murikian of JPL. We're talking about as little as half a baby aspirin worth of sample.
Blimey, that's not much.
No, exactly. If they put too much in, it clogs it up, and too little, then you won't get an accurate analysis. So it's like all these things are amazing, aren't they? That they're trying to do these things by having an exact copy of the rover on Earth and then running the program and letting it do it on Mars, millions of miles away, and it working. It's just absolutely incredible.
It's I just love it, and I can't wait for the soil samples, man.
If we do a sample return, that's going to be absolutely epic.
That is the one, isn't it?
Sample return mission.
We'll sort that out.
Yeah. Big time.
So what else is happening, Matt? New Horizons?
New Horizons, indeed. It's just about to come out of hibernation to get ready for its MU-69 flyby in January.
I love the idea of it coming out of hibernation, like a bear that's been asleep for a few months.
Again, it's incredible, isn't it? It's so many billions of miles away now, yet there's this little computer that gets woken up by a little command and then boots up. I mean, how many times you switch on your PC and it doesn't quite boot up properly because of some recent update? And you've got that kind of stress, except that it's really hard to turn it off and back on again when it's billions of miles away.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, this is a critical moment in the mission. But yes, so eventually it's going to get to Ultima Thule Island that's off the map.
It's far now. It's far.
It really is far, and it's going to be by far the furthest away flyby ever performed by a spacecraft. It's going to be very exciting indeed.
That's really exciting.
It's got a bit of UK space news.
Go on.
So here I am in Guildford, and I'm talking about Surrey Satellites, who've awarded launch services to Firefly Aerospace. So that's pretty interesting. So Firefly is pleased to enter into an LSA, that's a launch service agreement, with SSTL to provide up to 6 alpha launches from 2020 to 2022, said Tom Markusik, who's the CEO of Firefly. Surrey Satellite built satellites are going to go up on this new Firefly Aerospace company's rocket, the Alpha.
Well, that's nothing but good news.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Surrey Satellites.
Well done, old beans. In China, there's a couple of Chinese newses, actually. There was obviously, I did mention it in the last podcast, the Long March 2D that flew up with the Gaofen 6
yes.
and the Luigia 1. That went up successfully on Saturday. That was nice. But they have lost contact. So one of the most important satellites that they've launched recently is the Quejiao satellite, which is functioning normally and made it to the Lagrange point 2, as you know, my favourite Lagrange point.
Oh, the only one.
And that's going to be the one that talks to the Chang'e 4 lunar mission. So that's the one that talks to this lander that's going on the far side of the moon. I'm so close to saying dark side of the moon again. On the far side of the moon.
You almost did.
And but on board that same launch, piggybacking, was a couple of satellites, DSL WP A1 and A2, which are wavelength pathfinders. But it looks like they've lost contact with one of those. So that's a bit boo.
Oh, well.
Don't
cry.
Oh, well. And of course, we saw the return, as promised on the last podcast, of NASA's astronaut Scott Tingle.
Oh, my mate
Do you know what he said about his legs when he landed?
Don't say he said they're tingly.
I think he did. Yeah, something like that.
Oh.
Anton Shkaplerov and, of course, Norishige Kanai all came back, and they're all fine and dandy.
Welcome home, lads.
Hopefully, when this podcast goes out, we'll have seen the launch up of 3 replacement astronauts, including our European ESA astronaut, Alexander Gerst.
Very exciting, that one.
Any other space news?
Well, NASA has selected a science mission, Matt, planned for launch in 2024 that will sample, analyse and map particles streaming to Earth from the edges of interstellar space.
Whoa. So this is IMAP.
Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe.
Whoa. So yeah, that's help us to understand the boundary of the heliosphere.
That is wonderful, isn't it?
It's the great big bubble that surrounds the sun and it's where basically the sun's solar particles are going out, and the rest of the galaxy's solar particles are coming in, and it's like a little bubble where they all collide and meet.
It sounds like a beautiful place to be.
Well, I don't know. It might be a really dangerous place to be, I'd imagine. I imagine.
Yeah, but Matt, you know what my bloody middle name is.
Is it Bloody? Jamie Bloody Franklin? Because that's what I hear everyone saying.
Oh, it's Danger.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
There's 5 solar terrestrial probes, or STPs, in the NASA portfolio. And they are stereo, which is a European Space Agency and NASA collaboration. So that's like 2 satellites that are out looking at the sun. There's the magnetospheric multiscale, or MMS mission, and that's a fundamental process of magnetic reconnection near Earth. Hinode, which is a Japanese collaboration with NASA. It's timed, TIMED. The thermosphere, ionosphere, mesosphere, energetics and dynamics, which is a NASA, the outer layers of Earth's atmosphere. Woo.
Beautiful words coming out your mouth, Matt.
Again. So yeah, that's nice, isn't it? I didn't realise that was part of a kind of program, the STP, the Solar Terrestrial Probes.
I might write to them, see if we can get an interview
with all 5 of the probes themselves. Just get them in.
I mean, why not?
Oh man, we've got some interesting interviews coming up, so stay tuned, everyone. And thank you very much to our patrons for making this sort of thing happen.
Yes, without you, we couldn't keep doing this stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll give you a shout out at the end.
Oh, will we ever?
Keep your ears out for that. Another great NASA mission, one of my absolute favourites, is Dawn.
Oh, yes.
So Dawn is going to, very soon now, it's going to start getting closer and closer to Ceres. So it's going to go much, 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 much lower and start collecting even more beautiful information. It's going to get 10 times closer, in fact. So 10 times closer to the surface. And so it's going to collect gamma ray and neutron spectra. And so it's going to really, really dig into what Ceres is actually made from. The uppermost layers. And so, that's going to be it. And that's going to be the end of the mission as it runs out of fuel. But that's really exciting, isn't it?
That is really exciting.
So we're going to see some amazing pictures, I should imagine, from Ceres and Dawn soon. Ceres. I should say Ceres.
Ceres and Dawn. Sounds like 2 Essex girls out on the town.
Of course, Ceres is the sort of main planet in the asteroid belt, especially in the program The Expanse. It's where where Miller was born.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. It's good. I've just finished watching it, Jamie. It's worth watching. Yeah. It gets a little bit cheesy at times. Well, I say a little bit. It gets very cheesy at times, and there's some there's some pretty appalling bits of dialogue, but it's watchable. It's good.
Well, it sounds like our show. They probably got inspired. So, Matt, what about all this NASA talk? What about some Euro news?
Here's a really ace article from satelliteobservation.net, and it gives you all the slides and the Q&A from this talk that was given by Jean-Marc Astorg, who's the head of CNES, which is the French space agency. He's basically spent his entire life working on Vega, Ariane 5, and Soyuz in French Guyana.
Uh-huh.
And he basically has been laying out the European response to basically reusability and looking at it. And it's really, really interesting, some of the slides and some of the answers.
We love that, don't we, Matt?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. So it's kind of, he basically says, ultimately, we will have to do a choice between an evolution of Ariane 6 and a brand new launcher to be ready in 2028, 2030. So they've got to turn this thing called Ariane Next around really quickly. And he's saying that there was a lot of talk about how you balance the whole difference between, expendable launches and reusable launches, and it wasn't just as simple as just reusable is best. He was saying that there are pros and cons of each of these things, but Europe needs to get its act together and sort of get on and develop these things or develop something that works better. A lot of it's around the engines, but there were so many really interesting points that he makes in the question and answer. So I'm going to put the link to that particular article in the notes. It's well worth looking through. I actually learned loads from it. It's really good.
Matt, could SpaceX share their information? Obviously, I'm sure there's some kind of patent, no doubt. But, I mean, it's better for the world, isn't it, if we're all using these reusable launchers?
Do you know what? I don't think they will. You know, they're a commercial company. That's that. And so, no, it's all kind of really proprietary stuff, man. So it's like, yeah, they don't want to share it.
I guess they just don't think like us, Matt. Eco warriors of the solar system.
Yeah. No. I mean, Elon Musk is thinking, how much money can I actually make? You know, and it's
you got to have some cash for his crazy ideas, haven't you?
Now, one of the little craft that they're thinking of making, and this is in 2020, 2021, is a thing called Callisto, which will be almost identical to SpaceX's Grasshopper, and he made no qualms about that. He goes, Callisto is Grasshopper. The Chinese are also building a similar prototype. I have no problem saying we didn't invent anything.
My lord.
So yeah, there's some really interesting things. And it was like someone said, what about 3D printing? And he was saying, oh yeah, how much in Ariane 6, the auxiliary power unit is 3D printed and has saved unbelievable amounts of money by having it 3D printed. So that's really, really interesting.
Wow.
But that's a great article.
I will check it out. Please check it out. Thank you.
Now, Christopher Riley, all of you listeners out there will have watched at least one of the films or TV programs
for sure
that he's made. He has made absolutely loads.
He has.
It seems like most of the kind of BBC programs about space, he's had a hand in some way or another. Even some science fiction ones. I mean, The Planets is a really big one. That was a massive program at the time and was one of the first to kind of really have that fantastic graphics that were awe-inspiring.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, his films that he's most famous for, In the Shadow of the Moon, is
incredible,
an absolutely incredible film, which he then went on to do Moon Machines. So those who've got the Discovery Channel, Moon Machines was one of his, and that was a series that looked at the 400,000 engineers that were involved in the Apollo missions. So that's pretty cool. But he has teamed up with Paolo Nespoli from the European Space Agency to make a couple of programs, including First Orbit, which recreates Yuri Gagarin's Vostok 1 flight by matching the orbit using the International Space Station of Vostok 1. And then, and they released that as the 50th anniversary of that space flight. And so, that was Riley involved with that. So, he's just... And one of my favourite documentaries ever is the one about Richard Feynman, the Fantastic Mr. Feynman.
Yes.
Unbelievable. He made a film about the Hubble telescope. The Fear of 13 is his. Oh,
The Fear of 13 is amazing. Please, guys, go and check out some of his films. You will not regret it. He's very, very talented. Very,
very talented. I tell you what, he was also an absolutely lovely bloke to spend some time with. I really got on with him, and he was just absolutely lovely. And this is a really great interview. I really enjoyed this interview. He made me feel very comfortable. You know, when you're talking to someone who's an expert at interviewing people, it can be quite intimidating. but yes, this guy is a high quality space filmmaker.
Well, I think we should.
Shall we just listen to it?
We should roll the tape.
Yeah. A good day. We're joined by Chris Riley, really excitingly, one of my favourite science filmmakers. Hello, Chris.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background first? You've been involved with science films and science documentaries and writing for a long time. Can you tell us how you actually got into that and what sparked it all off?
Well, so I suppose as a child, I was a great consumer of science stories on TV. You know, I grew up in the era of, you know, the classic years of Tomorrow's World and in the sort of 70s, and QED and Horizon, which is obviously still going. And I just was a total fan, a real geek on these things. So I'd video them all. I'd have a huge video library of Horizons, and I'd watch them again and again. And I was really really intrigued and inspired by these stories. And so I initially went into science myself, and I assumed that was this path that this interest was going to take me in. And so I did a PhD in planetary science, as it turned out, actually, and used early space shuttle data from Spacelab, from STS-9, to map a mountain range in the south of Europe, the Sierra Nevada, and to look at its geomorphology, its tectonics, and tectonic history of Africa crashing into Europe, and so on. So I had a sort of interest in space from that work I was doing. But even years before that, I was, a child of Sagan's original Cosmos series, and lapped that up as well as part of my kind of TV diet. And my dad had a great amateur interest in astronomy, and not a telescope, but good binoculars, and we go out and we look at the planets in the garden. And I remember Star Wars coming out in '77, the original Star Wars film, and George Lucas's renderings of these planets were something else on the big screen. Are those of you who are that right age to be kind of excited by that, at sort of 10 upwards, we might remember that the curtains would just move a bit more just before the film started, and then these epic sort of huge shots of enormous spacecraft and incredibly realistic planetary surfaces would emerge. And I think I kind of connected all this and just became absolutely fascinated by the geology of other worlds. So rocky bodies, I'm not a stellar physicist or anything, but interested in good old rocks, but planetary geology more than just Earth. So that was where my kind of path was taking me. And then during the PhD, which I, looking back, kind of loved doing, it was a great lucky time in my life in a sense, and I had the freedom to explore other things, I realised that actually what I really loved was storytelling and telling other people's stories. And I just didn't have the patience to sit largely on my own, which is what sort of geology can be, quite solitary, mapping or just doing computer work on your own, for years on end, just to come up with one eureka moment that would kind of, might not ever happen. Some people go a whole career and don't have a eureka moment. So I suddenly thought, well, but wouldn't it be great? Because what I've really loved about my childhood was actually these stories of other people's eureka moments. So maybe, what I should be doing here is telling stories. So I started writing to people in the media at the time. Quite well-known people, including David Attenborough, who actually wrote back to me, funnily enough, and gave me some advice, which was, to start as a researcher and on TV shows. And so I began in radio after my PhD, and I was in London, and it was just easy to go and buy a tape recorder on the Tottenham Court Road and find stories and go out and record interviews, and you could just be a kind of lone operator and pretty much sort of earn a living, a little one anyway. And then in '97, I was introduced to the team making The Planets, which had just started for BBC Two, one of the first big landmark series that the BBC Science Department, as it was then, was doing. And I thought, my God, I've got to get a job on this. This is my dream job, So I did everything I could to get on that show and managed to kind of persuade the series producers to take me on. And then I just worked day and night, 7 days a week for 2 years pretty much to make that series as great as it could be. Talked to about 1,000 planetary scientists during that period, and it was 8 episodes, and I worked across all of them pretty much. And and that went out, and incredibly, it's still almost 20 years on now. It's still playing on Netflix with audiences. It's wonderful, a really thrilling thing. And then,
but it still looks good. I mean, it
seems to have stood the test of time, and which so much of my work I look back on and I think, blimey, did I really? What was I thinking? Filming it like that? It's such a fashion zeitgeisty thing, film and television, and yet somehow The Planets has really stood that test.
Why do you think that is? Is that because it's? Because in some ways it was quite iconic, wasn't it, The Planets? It was the first time that attempt to kind of recreate planets in that digital way, or was it digital in fact?
Yeah, bits of it were. I remember we hired our own animators and built an in-house graphics team that were just devoted to that series. We did a lot of physical effects work as well with it, with cloud tanks out in West London in Acton, where BBC Outside broadcasts, where then they had these big spaces, and we set up big cloud tanks for the gas giant planets and filmed those in slow motion and stuff, and then composited all of that together and created these beautiful things. And I think you look back and go, wow, that graphic still stands up. Those Venera probes descending into Venus still look okay. It wasn't embarrassing 20 years on. We did a good job.
Yeah, because there's one thing I like about it particularly is the music. is it Jim Meacock, who was the composer there? I think he did a brilliant job on creating those atmospheres, which are absolutely essential for that emotional element to the series. That was superb.
You're right. The music was a very important part of that, and interestingly, the whole series begins in 1930 with Holst's "The Planets." And the Neptune Suite, I think, is the song that's playing, the tune that's playing, and of course that was the last planet that he composed about, and then Clyde Tombaugh's work leads to Pluto shortly after that, and so it kicks off with this musical moment, which really is very stirring. It's such a moody piece, that movement, and Jim did a great job following on from that, and the rest of the music is in that vein, actually, a lot of it.
You've even done a bit of sci-fi stuff. Is that correct? With A for Andromeda and a few others like that.
Yeah. I worked on that as a consultant, A for Andromeda, which, of course, was the BBC's remake of it in the early 2000s, I guess. And that was done, I seem to remember, as live almost. It was there was Quatermass. I worked a bit on that. Again, the remake around the same time, and A for Andromeda. I think A for Andromeda was done as a live drama, which was very much more exciting than it could have been. Yeah, because there's a lot of potential things going wrong. I remember. But yeah, and before, I think the reason I got those gigs was that I previously produced Space Odyssey. I seem to remember it was about the same time for the BBC, which was this Voyage to the Planets thing from the makers of Walking with Dinosaurs. It was kind of, the working title was Walking with Spacemen for most of the time we were making that, and then it became Space Odyssey towards the end. The Joe Ahern wrote it, I produced it, and that was imagining a future where, or a present, in fact, where the 60s had continued at that pace and we hadn't stopped at the moon and we'd just over-engineered even bigger, interplanetary craft and taken humans on a tour of the solar system, and what would have happened. And I remember our lovely golden rule for that series was we would not break any laws of physics. So we designed it like a real mission, and we mapped out all the orbits of the planets as they were going to unfold, and then the trajectories of the spacecraft. And we worked with Astrium to build the spacecraft, and it was pretty serious stuff. It was some high-end engineering. It felt like a real mission we were planning. It took 2 years and a lot of work.
Wow! Because that series stands up, I think, very, very well. Because I watched the DVD recently, and it's still a great story, and I think the visuals are brilliant because the date of its production was
2004 that came
so
out.
That's now nearly 15 years.
15 years,
and it looks really, really good. So
where's my life going? That seems like, in my head, 2004 is recent. Moving on to the film that you're talking about tonight, the Neil Armstrong. Did you start that project just after he died? Was that the...
Yeah, so the thing about that film was that, there's a mixture of film projects in your life where some of them you work really hard on for years to get going, and then others just sort of land in your lap. And so in the summer of 2012, I think I was working on a Voyager film with Dallas Campbell, actually, to celebrate. There was a Voyager anniversary that year, I guess, and it was just announced that I think Voyager 1 was pushing out of the heliopause, because we had heliopause then as well. So we were making a film about that. And then it was announced that Neil had died in August that year, and the phone started ringing for me. I think I was up in Scotland editing the Voyager film, and suddenly there was this huge interest in doing some kind of biopic about him. Yeah. And I'd made Shadow of the Moon a few years before that, and got to know the Apollo astronauts quite well, and we courted Neil for years for that film, and he never took part in it. But what it had done was, I think, it had opened doors with the other Apollo astronauts that meant that they kind of respected me and my colleagues as filmmakers that had done Shadow. And the other thing that counted in our favour, I think, is we had not hounded Neil to the point where he was just like in a corner and forced to do it. We'd said, look, this is a polite invitation. I think we asked him a couple of times. Then we said it's entirely your choice. We respect that, and moved on. And in fact, Shadow of the Moon somehow says more about him without him in it than if he was in it. I often think, So I was phoned up by another production company, and they said, look, do you think you can get something together on Neil? I said, well, what's the deadline, the budget and stuff? And this was September, and they wanted it for Christmas. So, typically a film like that's going to take 6 to 8 months to make if you do it quickly. 10 weeks was really tricky. And so I remember on the first day we had no access, we had no relatives sort of signed up to it, not even any way of getting through to some of them. And time was ticking, and we should have been editing for 10 weeks. So it was quite a scramble to get that together, and scramming sort of 6 months' work into 10 weeks was pretty stressful. And I seem to remember at the time I was also finishing a book on the lunar rover and making another documentary for Radio 4 about the moon. And oh God, it was really really stressful. But we got it across the line.
Wow, that's amazing. So with all the Apollo stuff that you've done, presumably you've interviewed quite a lot of the characters involved. Or is there any kind of one that you've got a real fond memory of?
Mike Collins, who we first met making Shadow of the Moon, and then I interviewed again for the Armstrong film, is such a sort of sparky wit, and he was such a good writer that he speaks very well as well. He's deeply thought out these things, and he's so eloquent and a terrific storyteller. So I would say, he stands out. And I think from Shadow again, Alan Bean was just such fun to spend time with. He had such an interesting take on life that I really kind of enjoyed his company. But I tell you what, making this film about Neil, it was a great treat to meet his brother and sister, so June and Dean, and to spend a day hanging out with them and find out a bit more about him from his perspective. The wonderful insight which is in the film is the kind of man he was, and that was right back to his childhood, and that insight that they could give about his upbringing and stuff was, I felt very lucky to be, capturing that as a piece of oral history, if nothing else.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of, obviously, these storytelling things are absolutely fantastic, and you've told some great stories over the years. Have you got any advice for our listeners, any of them thinking about becoming kind of documentary makers or space advocates in general?
Good question. I mean, I think to make films that are emotionally satisfying to watch, you have to concentrate on the story and the characters, and absolutely nothing else matters. And it's so easy to get carried away with other things and visuals and graphics often, and none of those things matter. If you haven't nailed your story and your characters, the film is not worth watching. And so, I often get sort of billed as someone who makes films about space. I don't think I've ever made a space film in my life. I make films about people. And it just happens that the people I sometimes celebrate in my films had this impact on human history and what they contributed to the exploration of space beyond the Earth, And so for me, it's all about the people, really. And a further bit of advice, if you're ever interviewing anybody, is that a good interview is when you shut up and listen. You ask one question, you let the person answering think and answer, and often at the end, and you'll see this in some of the films I've made, you keep looking at them when they've finished, and you don't say anything, you just keep looking, and it forces them sometimes into a space where they think another thought, and it's that thought they say after you would have jumped in and gone, great, thanks, and next one. And that is the quote you need and that you use in the film.
Right.
So patience and silence and listening, good listening, is the absolute keys to interviewing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything else.
No, I'll have to work on that technique. So yeah, actually, I mean, there's something happening at the moment in space, I think, and that's this kind of new space race where we've got some pretty iconic characters in people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And are you kind of excited about these space baron style space race? Do you think it's an exciting time?
Undoubtedly. I mean, I've just been making a film recently for PBS about a history of the rocket, and I spent some time talking to Franklin Chang Diaz, who's one of the two people who's flown into space 7 times, I think, 7 shuttle missions, amazing record. And he's an extraordinary rocket scientist as well as an astronaut and mission specialist. And he put it interestingly. He said to me that he thought that the rocket engine, this momentum engine, which is essentially what it is, has been democratized. And this is this period we're living through. If you look back to the emergence of it as a technology through the 50s and 60s, there was a total monopoly on it from the point of view of those that had the patents on it and those that were building them. And you could have counted all the players globally on one hand, probably just on a few fingers actually. And now, you have that knowledge and ability to rapidly engineer novel original rocket engines around the world. There are multiple players now, whether it's the ones we've all repeatedly hear of, like SpaceX and Jeff Bezos's efforts as well, or the less well-known ones, like there's a company in New Zealand that are, additive manufacturing, 3D printing their own rocket engines.
The Electron,
and that's just one of dozens that are doing this stuff.
Yeah,
now.
well, China have got about 6 or 7 little startup engine companies.
They have, you see. And what's interesting when you throw that into the mix socially is that as a society, it accelerates things far faster. And of course, the sharing of information in this age that we're in now that we weren't in the 60s, 70s so much is also comes into play there. But the exciting thing is then where does that go? Where does that line extrapolate to if you kind of apply those new rules to society? And that's still, of some debate. Quite whether, it'll accelerate us back to the moon and on to Mars, I'm still sceptical about, to be honest. And for only one reason, and that is that if you're going to hand these things over to businesses to do, then businesses exist to make profit. And the thing about that is, how do you monetize it? Now, you can just about work out how you could monetize low Earth orbit LEO's tourism, say, because the ticket prices, you can take a top end off that, and that's your profit. Going to the moon, well, Richard Garrett's had his suborbital tourist flight on the table for some years now, and he's not sold those tickets. I mean, it's 200 million or something, isn't it? So fewer people, the market's smaller for that, right?
Yeah.
And actually, beyond that, could you imagine a landing for someone and a walk where that was profitable somehow? Well, the business model doesn't exist yet for that. And it certainly doesn't exist for going further to Mars. How would you make your money back on that? And Musk's idea of, where you'd sell tickets for sort of $250,000, like you could sell your house and go to Mars kind of thing, which is the Pilgrim model in a sense, which existed crossing the Atlantic and colonizing America all those centuries ago, is one thing that he would say is the answer to that. But, look, never say never, but that's not near future.
Yeah. I mean, I sometimes think maybe it's the flipping of industry and having industrial processes happening up in space and the asteroid belt, but I still, like you, I still think that's a long way off. And
even that, to conceive of materials that are so valuable that the cost of retrieving them and returning them to Earth down the gravity well, re-entry and stuff, actually is profitable. I mean, I think it's still a long way off. I mean, we would have had to seriously have depleted this planet and not had the ingenuity to come work on an alternative to the map material in order for that to be the case. And I think with things like graphene emerging, then the need for some of these other exotic materials may be disappearing.
Yeah. I think you're going to have to go down and do your talk soon. So I think I'm going to wrap this up and say thank you very much for talking to me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's a great pleasure for me too. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Fantastic.
What do you think about that, Jamie?
It seems like just such a lovely guy, and as we talked about, what a body of work.
Yeah, and I really liked his interview technique of not saying something back right at the end and then just waiting for it. It was really good. That's
always helps.
Can't do that over Skype though. You can't do it over Skype. You can do it face to face because you've got that kind of face waiting for something. But yes, we should try that out. I'm going to try it out on the next interviewee.
I'm just interrupting the show to remind listeners that it's Space Up London 2018 this weekend on June the 9th and June the 10th at King's College London on the Strand. Space enthusiasts will be brought together to discuss, present and learn about space with other students, professionals and some of the major players in the space industry and ace podcasters like myself. So I'll see you there this weekend. Let's get back to the show.
So, space fact, Jamie. Do you want to hear it?
Space fact. Let's go.
Can a planet blow up?
Ooh, now that's a question.
So, I don't know why I found this rather amusing. No is the answer.
No is the answer.
No is the answer. A planet can't just blow up. So, for example, if you wanted to blow the Earth up, just like blow it up, you would need a ball of uranium about 3 miles across and sink that down to the core, and then somehow start a nuclear reaction, a fusion reaction using that. But the problem with that is, of course, all the neutrons that are around in Earth itself would just absorb the nuclear explosion and stop it in its tracks.
Take that, terrorists.
So even if the terrorists could find a 3-mile ball of uranium, a diameter of 3 miles, that's a lot of uranium, which I don't, that's a lot of uranium, then probably way more than there actually exists. Then no, you can't blow up the Earth. And even if you had that, you still couldn't blow it up. So I think I'm going to go with no, you can't blow a planet up. What about you?
Well, that's answered.
What about you?
I'm going to say no. Going to go with you, Matt.
Okay, what about with a primordial black hole? Oh, and all that Hawking radiation. When it gets really, really small, it might have enough energy. Oh, no.
I'm going to say yes.
You're going to say yes, okay. Anyone else have any ideas whether you can blow a planet up? Then please write in.
You can blow anything up. If I've listened to this show and I've enjoyed it, I guess I could go to iTunes and give it a nice review. If I enjoyed it, maybe I could, if I felt I had a question, I could hop onto one of our social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and leave a comment or query or question.
Wow.
But Matt, if I want to go further than that, I mean, sure, I've subscribed to the podcast, but what about if I want to donate?
If you want to donate.
I want to just pitch in. I mean, how do I do it?
Not only is it simple, it's heartwarming when we get patrons. Every little ping on our Patreon page makes me very, very, very happy indeed.
And Matt, why does it help us?
It helps us because we're able to do things like fly to Cologne and interview Tim Peake.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. It's that kind of thing. It's just like, wow. Well, that is genius.
I mean, because it's our own money, isn't it, Matt? The rest of it?
Everything. I mean, yeah, we're definitely not making a living out of the podcast. But I'll tell you what you can do is you can tell your friends and tell their friends and do the ghost-to-ghost hookup. And
imagine that.
Yeah, and build the podcast. We have reached a new high on the podcast listeners. It's going really, really well. Thank you very, very much for tuning in every single week and listening to us blabber on for hours on end.
Thank you.
And a special thanks to Jeffrey Marlam and Matt Gilliland, who are our producers, show producers, legends in podcast world.
Matt, yes.
And on Skylon level are brilliant contributors to the show who always give some fantastic stuff over to us, are Bob Hodges, Richard Swain, Carell Sim, Erin Edwards, and Julio Aprea.
I would say that they're all excellent people. And if you want to join them, it's simple.
Pop along to the Patreon page.
I mean, if you've got fear of missing out...
FOMO.
then get over to our Patreon page. No, in all seriousness, you're all incredible and you're the reason that this carries on. So, without further ado...
It's quite likely if you go over right now, you'll be the 40th patron. And we need to get 10 times more than that and we'll be making videos. This will turn into a video show, which would be amazing.
You get to see our faces.
And the great news is on the round about the 28th of September, so bookmark this, particularly if you live in London, you're welcome to join us for the 100th edition of the podcast at the British Interplanetary Society in Vauxhall. There will be bands, there'll be drink, and there will be special guests, and it will be a live video feed. So I can't wait for that. What do you think about that, Jamie?
That is going to be the bomb.
It's going to be the uber bomb.
I can't wait.
You have been listening to the Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space. Jamie, you've egressed out the hatch.
I just egressed all over myself.
Have you egressed your mind?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Matt. I'm going to make a lovely cup of Egress right now.
I'm going to have Egress.
Oh, beautiful. All right, space freaks. Look after yourself.
See you soon.
And each other.
Bye, podcast.
Bye.